The purpose of this lesson is for you all to be able to apply acrylic paint to your bisque-fired ceramic tic-tac-toe boards. We're using acrylic paint for, there's a time restriction and it does take time to fire. And also, it's the end of the year and this is a little easier. Washes, opaque layers, brushstroke direction, texture. What's texture? Okay, it could be something based on feel. Yeah. Could something look like it has texture and not have texture? Yeah. So that could be the illusion of texture. That would still count, right? If you had certain brush strokes and it made it look kind of messy or like a pattern, it might look like it has texture, but it'd be smooth. That still counts. What's hue? H-U-E. If you need, you can totally reference any of the... I don't think it's... You don't have hue up there? Do we have color theory?
Nope. Yeah, we do.
Can we have color? Okay, it's probably way too small to read. Hue is definitely on there. Hue is your color families. Hue is your color family. So if you want something that has unity, you're going to be in the same color family. Your greens and your blues, your oranges and your reds, or maybe your purples and dark blues. Those color families are, your lights and your darks are your values, and then your cool tones and your warm tones. So if you want something visually contrasting, and I've got something on here that is orange, what would be a good color to contrast something orange?
Yellow.
Contrasting yellow? Are those not really close to each other on the color wheel? They are? Or they're not? Oh, okay. No, I appreciate the attempt.
When you're saying contrasting and with the color wheel, you're saying something that may be on an opposite side?
Yes, I am saying something that's
So
on an
maybe
opposite
then,
side.
Maybe like a blue.
Blue
more
and
primary
orange would
colors.
definitely contrast each other. Yes. What about green? Red, right? That's why it's Christmas colors, because it pops and you think of like Christmas trees and poinsettias and stuff. Some of the major sports teams have contrasting colors on purpose so that you immediately recognize, oh, that's Miami Dolphins, or that's USF, that's FSU. They have contrasting colors, gold and maroon, or was it crimson? Not sure. Something like that. And then, where you have like green and black, or like white and bright blue. Those are all contrasting. So if you have different pieces, you might want those to contrast in color so you know which one's which, especially if your shapes are similar. My shapes are very different. My contrast is through shape and form, not necessarily color, but they are going to be different colors. I am going to do a quick demo on applying paint, because bisque fire clay is super porous. What does porous mean? End of the year, porous. Porous.
Like it has holes.
Like it has holes, kind of like a pore.
Like a sponge.
Like a sponge, which means it does what to water?
Absorb.
It absorbs. Very good. That's what porous means. It just means it's absorbent. And this really is. So if I were to take one of these, and I have a little bit of water in here, I think. Oh, I sure don't. Let me get some. I've got water, I've got paint. And if I mess this up, I am going to rinse it off, by the way. You can do that. You do have time. You just can't let it sit there for a long time. Let's say I wanted... I'm going to do it on the bottom because who cares? I wanted this bottom to be blue. All right? And I might need a little bit more water to make a thinner wash. I want this to be more translucent. Okay? And I want this to be my first layer. If you can see, if you want to stand up, you can see, I've got a loaded brush with a lot of water. I just tap it on here, and it just sucked up all that water. And now that spot is blue. I can move it around a little bit, but I can't really get it off. without running it underwater, right? So kind of like with a glaze. And look, it's already soaked in. It's dry. So intentional paintbrush strokes. And if you're not sure about a color, test it on another piece. If you're not sure about how light or how dark to go, look, I can't get that up. So that's with a wash. If I wanted to do something more vibrant, more opaque, I might not use much water at all. I might just paint directly on there. And that's not going anywhere either. And that is a lot more opaque, right? I might say, I don't really like the blue as much. I'd rather it be a little more green. So what should I add?
Red.
Add red?
Oh, wait,
Red
I
and
was
blue.
thinking about
Red and
contrasting.
red and blue make green. What makes green? That's a wild guess, all right. Yeah, no, your guess is correct. So I'm gonna add a little yellow. That's kind of a sicky green. I'm not a huge fan of that. It looks like pea soup. I don't like that either. All right, I'm gonna clean my brush. I might add one of the greens that I already have on my palette, which is a real pretty forest green, kind of like a viridian green. Add that in there. Oh, I've got a much nicer color, but it's too dark. What do I need to add? I can add a little white, or I can add a little water, depending on if I'm doing this more opaque or if I'm doing this in wash layers, right? So I'm gonna try both. I'm going to, on this little ledge here, I'm gonna add both. I'm gonna see what that comes up with. Oh, now it's like a mint. I added white, now I have a mint. That looks nice. I can spread that around. And it's gonna dry pretty much instantly. Okay? If I wanted to just do a wash, I don't need any white. It might be just as light, but I'm gonna need to do it in more layers. Okay? And that's gonna spread out. It's gonna show more texture. It's also not gonna be as light, but it is gonna be more pigmented. There's something that we haven't talked about much is saturation. When you add white, you do take away some of the vibrancy of the color. The same way when you add black, you take away the vibrancy of the color. It becomes more gray, it becomes more muted. So it all depends on your stylistic choices. If I want to mute something without adding white or black, I can take opposite colors on the color wheel and do that. That's what I did with my egg. I wanted this to be kind of a cooler grayish white with a little bit of color in it. So I took a green wash, and it was very, very, very thin on the bottom. And you can still see a little bit of the green in there. And then I took a little bit of purple, and that's blue. I'm trying to remember where my purple is. It's over there. This is why we have the whole palette, right? Because you're gonna make some mistakes, because I definitely have. Take a little bit of purple, a little bit of yellow. That's the opposite color. So we're getting into color theory. And now I've got kind of a mucky brown. I want more green and I want more purple in this to make it less yellow. And now I've got a base. I'm going to add white to it. And I've got the color pretty close to what I painted my egg with. If I want it brighter, I'm not gonna add just pure white. I'm gonna add a little blue to that so it pops. If I want it a little more dull, I'm gonna add a little yellow, more cream color, okay? So we're just playing with the color wheel today, pretty much. And I would do some experimentation before I hit right on your piece, okay? So she's got a few, they call them cookies, little bisque-fired pieces. You can paint those, experiment with how you want your colors to look. And if you get satisfied with that, you can go straight for your pieces or your base for your tic-tac-toe board. What you're gonna need. You're gonna need your project, obviously. And you might need a couple of those little bisque cookies to kind of test your colors on. You're gonna need a palette. You probably are gonna need at least 2 brushes of varying sizes or textures, depending on what your purpose is. If you got real small pieces, you might need a real small brush. If you're doing little dots, small brush. Texture, you might need a bigger, wider sweeping brush so you can make big moves with it, more expressive. You're gonna need paper towels, and you're gonna need water cups. And paint, obviously. The paint's all in the big sectional table in the middle. I recommend getting a little tiny bit of any color that you might use. Just a little, like less than I've got, because I know what I'm working with. But if you're just experimenting with this today and tomorrow, just get a little bit of each. You can play around in the middle with different color combinations. See what you like. If you have a plan already, like say you had a theme and it's like underwater ocean, well, you know what colors you're looking for then, right? Most of it's probably going to be bluish or bluish greenish. Think about some colors that might contrast really well with that. Something you can see from across the table. Let's see, what else am I obligated to tell you? I know you guys know a lot of this stuff already. It is the end of the year. Okay. So that was my demonstration. The next step is going to be guided practice. So 3 things I want to go over before we start with me helping you. Basically, you're going to get your supplies and we're going to start playing around with this. What is craftsmanship mean to you? I want you to think about that for a minute. The reason that I'm emphasizing so much not to just play around on your piece is because it's a little unforgiving. If you start making marks with really vibrant colors or really dark colors, it's going to be hard to get that up. It's going to be more difficult to paint over it too. So when you're thinking about craftsmanship, what does it mean?
Like instead art skills and knowledge to like create a more like, I don't want to say perfect piece, but a more unified or a more, if you get what I'm saying.
That's a great answer. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect, but it's okay to strive for perfection when you want it to be more unified and you want it to be more successful as a piece. And you're right. You're going to be depending on your own skills and your own knowledge of what you've already done in here this year, this week, or if you're a returning student over the course of the last couple years. Is it okay to ask each other for help? Absolutely. Is it okay to ask me for help? Yes. Is it okay to set a simple goal that you know you can achieve at this stage? Like a level 1, like, okay, I'm going to do what I know I can do and it's going to be effective because I want my craftsmanship to be shown in it. That's totally fine. You don't have to bite off more than you can chew. Is it okay to challenge yourself at this point in the year? Yeah. If it's something that you're like, I've never tried that before and I just want to see what I come up with and how it turns out, also totally good. Because that's what you're going to be choosing next. So, does anybody have any questions about how acrylic painting is different from glazing? Because it's really not very different. No? Any concerns? Nope? Okay. I know some of you guys' pieces are not going to be available until tomorrow. So today is just kind of like a practice day I'm going to do a demonstration and some paint techniques. And you can also start working on that if we have time. I also want to talk with each of you about what level of goal you want to do for this final project, because that's how you're going to be graded, honestly, is did you or did you not complete, or was there a visual attempt at completing in a successful way your goal. So those 3 goals are available to anyone. If, you know, this is the end of your first art class in here, and you're only comfortable with doing, I just want a nice clean project painted correctly, you know, it's smooth, it's cohesive, it fits my theme, that's a level 1. That's totally fine. Is everybody okay knowing if you want to have a more basic goal, more simple goal? That's fine. Especially if some of this is a little unfamiliar to you. I know some people transfer in and out during the year and they haven't as long of instruction. Is it cool to do just color contrast and not worry too much about the painting techniques? That's also fine, yes. And is it fine to want to challenge yourself, even if you don't hit that mark, just to see what you come up with?
Yeah.
That's also fine. So the choice is yours. And they are also, after the pre-assessment, now I've got terms. If you want to look up what any of those terms mean that we had in the pre-assessment, I have them up here. I am going to go over them really quick with you. So the difference between a glaze and a wash, a glaze is acrylic paint mixed with a gel medium. That's the one that they fire in the kiln and then it kind of bonds to your bisque fired piece. Acrylic paint is just mixed with water. So it's super it's not absorbent itself. The clay is very absorbent. They call it porous, which means there are teeny tiny microscopic holes. It sucks all the water out of the paintbrush. And then whatever you have laid down is pretty much permanent unless you wash it off right away. So if you want to experiment with your colors, I recommend doing it in the palette. If you want to experiment with the thickness of the wash, I recommend getting like a little bisque cookie, a little fragment or something that might have exploded even, and paint that and see how it turns out and if you like it or not before you do it on your actual piece. So we're gonna do a little bit of that practice probably today and early tomorrow. For a glaze, the brush strokes and ridges remain. So whatever texture that you put on with the glaze, it's gonna stay. You're not gonna see as much brush texture with this because it's gonna pull all the water out and flatten it. It has more of a watercolor-like appearance. If you guys are familiar with 2D art, it's gonna have more blotches and it's gonna have more visible layers to your application here. And if you want it to be shiny and sealed at the end, there's something we have called Mod Podge, and it's kind of like a gel, kind of like a glue, and it seals everything.